How's everyone doing? Let's see, I'm trying to get a screen. Oh, there we go, so I can see more folks. Okay, so first order of business, does everyone have their coffee? We can't call this a coffee without coffee. That's important. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming this morning, and it's good to see you all. I would like to just kind of thank Nikki and the PTSA for helping us organize some regular coffees once a month just to check in. My hope is that it is pretty informal. You'll tell me, and maybe we'll spend some time today regarding what topics you would like for me to address. Nikki sent out the questionnaire, so today I'll be happy to answer those questions to the best of my ability, and then any other questions that may come up over our time together. But first, if you don't mind, would you just introduce yourself and tell me who you are and your student or students you have at Wooten? Anyone want to jump in there?
I'm happy to jump in. My name is Robin Judeson. I have a daughter who is a freshman, Lily, and a son who is a junior, Logan.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Bita Safai, and I have a junior, Dylan, and a sophomore, Hope.
Good to see you and to see everyone back.
Thank you.
I'm Alex Sobey, and I have a freshman, Jacob Hellman.
Nice to meet you. I think we've exchanged some emails, yes?
We have exchanged emails, yes. And then I have one at Frost still. I have a 7th grader as well.
Excellent. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
My name is Bianca Trainer. I have a sophomore, Lucy, and then I have a middle schooler too.
Nice to see you.
Hi, good morning. This is David Moral. My daughter is Jansu. She's an 11th grader at Wooten.
Very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm Carrie Kristovich. I have twins at Wooten in 11th grade, Ben and Charlotte, and I have 3 Wooten graduates in college right now.
You are a long-term Wooten patriot, aren't you?
I'm at the end of my sentence, though. We're getting close.
Once you're here, you're always here. You can't leave. Good to see you.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Swinton Eppard. I have a 12th grader, Peyton, and a rising 9th grader next year. Looking forward to it.
Very nice. Good to see you. Thank you. All right. Well,
good morning. Good morning. I'm George Sellers, and I have my daughter Ann is a 9th grader, just started. So, and we're a new family to Wooten. My son's at Richard Montgomery.
Very nice to meet you, Mr. Sellers. I was at Richard Montgomery for a couple years. Good to see you, and thanks for being here.
All right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, my name is Jiren, and I have a son at the junior, and I have a younger one in the middle school.
Nice to see you.
Hi, Miss Bolden. It's Glenn Noble, an old name in Facebook. Nice to see you.
It's good to see you.
Thank you. So I'm going second round. I've had 2 boys come through Wooten.
Right.
My claim to fame at Wooten was I was the lead parent on the turf field project.
That's right, Mr.
And I need to let you all know something, because this is kind of why we're doing all this. So my son Brady, who is a 2014 graduate, started a payments company called Pay Proudly, and the concept of Pay Proudly is to raise money for causes. So one of the things that we want to do is, Ms. Bolden, I want to sit with you, and I sent Nikki an email this morning. We want to talk to you about raising some serious money for the PTA, because that's what Proudly does. It's a payment gateway that takes transactions and fees, and it goes to causes. So coming from a guy that raised over $1 million for the turf field project back in 2014, we were squeezing money out of people, right? This is a way to do it digitally, so at least it's a little less painful. But anyway, so I now have 3rd child, Emerson, who's a freshman, and then I have Mackie behind her. So, you know, my name's on the, when you walk in the stadium, some of us have big bricks there and stuff. So I'm very happy to be back. Probably a little more relaxed this time, actually, right? Having been through it, having sent you to college, the whole bit. So,
Right.
so if anybody's interested in sort of understanding real world, what you should be worrying about and what not, I'm probably a pretty good person to talk to you about that. Anyway, so thanks for doing this, right? In a crazy world, we're all busy, present company included. But I really want to. Is Nikki on this call?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Yeah, I got your email this morning,
Okay,
Glenn.
good. Thank you. Sorry to hockey, but you know, I got to get. I've been telling Brady we got to get to Nikki because I'm trying to figure out the ecosystem on, because fundraising is everywhere, man. The world has moved to a fundraising kind of place, and so what we're doing is really, you know, again, so we have an alum and a kid, somebody that the whole system can point to is, this is what we're all aspiring to do, is to groom somebody like that, right?
Okay, well, thank you for that, and I'm sure we'll be in touch to talk.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, let me get off the stage.
Yeah. Well, in the interest of time and making sure that I answer all of your questions, how about if you have a question for me, introduce yourself at that time when you ask the question, and then hopefully I'll get a chance to meet even more of the parents joining us. So I'll just jump right in. So I'll start with the questions that I received, and thank you for those. The first two have to do with seniors. And I want to preface this by saying, as you have experienced the last 7 to 8 months, the landscape is changing all the time. So I'll give you information today, and then as the information changes, we will certainly keep you up to date. So first, I would like to say we started meeting with the senior planners over the summer, knowing that this was going to be a unique year for them and really wanting to preserve some of the traditions and preserve what we do to honor our seniors and all of their hard work. It's not 4 years, it's 13 years. We understand that. And really how we try to send our seniors off is hopefully respectful of the fact that they've worked very hard to achieve this milestone in their lives. And so obviously, and a cornerstone of that is their gatherings. These are their final gatherings for high school, that they will be with this group of people. And that is significant and meaningful to them. And last year, you know, obviously being caught by surprise by all of this and having to come to some really hard realizations and truths about maybe not being able to have those final milestones, the ones at the very end, the prom, the senior picnic, the graduation. Those of you who lived it last year, you know, we really wanted to see how we're sort of torn, right? We want to do some pieces with our students, but we also need to make sure that we are respecting the boundaries and respecting the guidance and the health requirements that we are all aware of at this point. And so what I know now, the first question was about graduation. Have their options and dates been discussed? The resounding answer is yes. We had some, this starts with our principals PLC, where the associate superintendents meet with us and we begin the process of a lottery for graduation in terms of dates and times and venues and all of that. And so that process is underway. And there started to be some moves to suggest that, that's where the county is heading. They want to have a graduation ceremony of some sort for our students. Now, again, it's a positive sign. I'm excited that was a first signal. However, we really don't know where we will be in October, in November. So we have to plan for May and June and a ceremony, but we also still need to continue to be flexible in terms of what that'll look like. But all signs at this point indicate that we are moving towards a graduation, and that is the commitment from MCPS. That is our commitment here. We want our students to have some ceremony, a commencement ceremony. We know that that's an important part. In addition, we're also in the spring, in the fall, we have, like I said, traditions for our seniors. We have the typical senior breakfast in usually in October, where they take pictures, where they take class pictures. And then there are some fundraiser activities, POTH, Putting on the Hits, and the other one, I'm blanking on it, TNL. And then the big events, the prom, the picnic, and graduation all happen towards the end. And so the students have been working to have some connections, have some virtual ways that they're checking in and that they're celebrating each other. They have a couple of campaigns going that I don't want to ruin for them, that should be coming the seniors' way to keep them connected. So they are working to figure out, how do we make a new tradition based on our circumstances? And there has been a lot of questions around parents who are wanting to jump in and to help. And the answer to that is yes. I would love for, we would love for parents to be involved, as you have been in the past. You all were up there slicing all those bagels for our darlings. So we're just looking at those opportunities for you all to be involved. The part that's always a little more challenging is making sure that whatever that involvement is, it's still meeting the guidelines of where we are. So where we are is that we can't have any gatherings here. We can't pull students together to, like, for example, be in the parking lot to have some sort of outdoor socially distanced event. So that is still not permissible on school property. So I have to be mindful, and I've explained this to the students, that as that those requirements or those restrictions rather are lifted, then we can engage in what else we can possibly do for our, in terms of in-person gatherings. But so far we can't do that. One opportunity that we do have for students, we're going to be doing senior portraits. They're in October. Forgive me, I forgot the date. But that is one thing that has been, that is now permissible, that activity to have the seniors to take their pictures. It's on the website. And we were looking at an opportunity for parents to perhaps do some sort of celebratory piece there to help us to celebrate as our students come in, because quite frankly, that would probably be the first time that we're actually having a senior event through the portraits, that we can celebrate them and say that we're thinking about them. And so we were looking at balloon arches or something else where outdoors that parents could partner with us to make senior portraits a little bit more special for them. So what you'll see going up on the website, hopefully next week, and I know that Ms. Cocker has been in touch with the PTSA to have some sort of form so that we can see which parents would like to volunteer. Senior parents would like to volunteer to help to plan events and to work with our senior planners, our students, in doing some things. It'll be my job sometimes to say, oh, that's a great idea, but the health conditions suggest that we're not able to do this, or MCPS's stance is not allowing us to congregate in this way. So just to be thoughtful of that, or mindful of that rather. My no is not because I don't want to do it. My no is just in terms of the restrictions that are being placed upon us. And as I said, in terms of all of the senior events, it is it really is challenging that they're in this, that we're all in this situation, in this predicament. However, I will say that based on what I'm seeing in senior planning and from the seniors, there is just a resilient spirit, and we're going to make the best of it. And so I want to leave with that, because I think that that's exactly what we're all trying to do, figure out how we can make the best for this situation, and be hopeful that as we move to the spring, we'll have some other opportunities for in-person gatherings where we really can celebrate our seniors and their accomplishments. Before I move on, I just wanted to know from senior parents, do you have any other questions or anything else I can answer for senior related pieces in particular?
Just as a senior parent, thank you. I don't have any other suggestions or anything to contribute to that. I'm just would like to voice, gratefulness that things are still moving forward. And I look forward to that email from Ms. Cocker, and I hope that I'm able to support anything that gets done. So thanks for making all of that happen.
Thank you. Great.
Ms. Bolden, I have a senior, and we just wanted to know, for senior portraits, are they going to be called one at a time into the building, or what's the protocol? How is it going to be played out?
Yes, so we are going to definitely have a way in which we're calling our students in, that they're socially distanced. We figure out a pathway so that they're entering in the building one way and exiting out another, and that's very clear for our parents. So I'm sorry, for our students, they will be wearing the mask up until they're taking their picture. So we are working on making sure that we are following all of the protocols. Fortunately, we've had lots of practice with this with all of our distributions, and so we are definitely going to be making sure that we are following all the CDC requirements and getting that information out to our families of what to expect, how to enter, how to exit, and not to have any overlap. We will not have any congregating, and this is hard, but the students cannot congregate in the building at all. So it'll very much be a pathway where they're coming in, taking their picture, and exiting. So any opportunities to celebrate will have to be outside, and maybe we can figure out how to do that. Okay. I know there are lots of questions about seniors as we move forward, and again, we'll keep you updated. And we're hoping to have a form out to you early next week to gauge interest in helping to volunteer with the senior activities as we move forward. All right, so let's get into the other questions. This is fun. So there was a question regarding homework and class assignments and how much are the teachers supposed to assign. Daughter is a 10th grader and seems swamped all the time. I've seen her really overwhelmed from all the work that she gets from her teachers, and wanted to know, oh, there was also a question about the work assigned on Friday when it was a Jewish holiday. So I'll answer both parts of that. So as you can imagine, we are trying so hard to figure out what is appropriate, how we monitor classwork, homework in a virtual environment. We had these existing questions when we were brick and mortar, but you can imagine how different it is in brick and mortar, where students are in classes for 2 hours, and then there are 2 hours for each of their class periods, and what are those expectations? And so the county has placed emphasis on math and literacy, knowing that those skills and making sure that there aren't significant learning gaps from all of the time not being able to connect outside of, or connect to school, since students have been in a virtual environment since March. So that's one component. So that being part of a driver, elective courses, for example, for the most part, do not offer any homework outside of that. There may be some exceptions in some of our advanced electives, but really the county is trying to make sure that those math and literacy skills are continuing to, that students are continuing to get exposure and to learn and grow in math and literacy. And so students are able to have assignments throughout the week. And so they have their class, and then there will be an assignment possibly for that evening or for the next meeting. But then there may also be another component or homework assignment that's coming out in math and literacy. Either it could be a long-term project where it's an essay and the teacher is asking for a paragraph or two to be turned in by that Wednesday, by that virtual check-in period, or it could be in math that they're finishing up in assignments if they had the Monday class, but then there's another assignment that may be released for them on Tuesday to follow through. And so we are expecting that our students will have some more homework than how much time they have in the class. And the other piece that's really, I think, unique to Wooten or part of our community is that our students are engaged in very high level courses, AP courses, and from a freshman all the way up to seniors. And there hasn't been any signal by College Board that they are taking some of the material, the curriculum away, the curriculum requirement and criteria away. So teachers are really trying to figure out pacing trying to figure out how much is too much, how little is too little. And we're all trying to figure out those ways to keep students engaged and keep them learning, but not to overwhelm. My advice, if your student is overwhelmed and you're noticing that they're not keeping up, the first thing to do is to reach out to the teachers and give that feedback, because every learner is different, right? And so what the teacher may be thinking is a 10-minute assignment and the student is taking an hour. Well, that data is really important to see what kind of adjustments can be made to make sure that they're understanding in terms of what the expectations are on the assignment. And so it's really important for you to reach out. I suggest this teacher or the parent or the student reach out first and say, you know, I'm really concerned about how much my student is working and how much homework they have. And a lot of times it can be resolved there. Other times we may need to look at what else is happening for that student and making sure that we understand how he or she is learning and put supports in place for that. And in that regard, I would ask that we work out with the counselor in terms of what's happening for that student in the classroom experience. And also the part that's also very challenging for this, and we need your help, is all of the, you know, executive function skills that students have and all of the kind of things that are happening in the school building where all of the students are leaving first period and there's students in the class in the hallways and then they're all in their classes again, all of the times during lunch where they're able to get together and study and do those things. Well, it's very isolating right now, and students are doing that all on their own. So not only are they learning content in a virtual environment, they're also learning study skills and work habits in a virtual environment. And for some of our learners, it's just very difficult. So again, we want to partner with you. We want to help. So as much as possible, ask your students some questions, figure out where things are not quite working, log how much time they're spending in each of their assignments, encourage your student to go to the virtual check-ins, make appointments in that focused student support time frame to work with their student, with their teacher, and have them say, I'm spending a lot of time on this and I'm not sure if I should be. I think that that's really important feedback for us to be able to adjust. And the other piece that we're really doing as a leadership team is taking all of this feedback and saying, okay, where do we need to make adjustments? Where do we need to send messages to our staff about where that tension is, right? In terms of how much students are taking on and what that total impact is. So the more information and feedback you give us, the better it is in helping us understand where that level of rigor is, where that level of stretch is, and if it's appropriate or if it's too much. We don't want to burn our students out. So help us with that, and definitely reach out to the teachers, the counselors, if there isn't a specific area that you're concerned about and that you're not seeing it change for your student. The other part of that question was the Jewish holiday. Yes, we are usually able to plan for, and there should not have been homework. I do apologize because I think with the way the schedule is set up, I think we just got ahead of ourselves. And so we were able to correct it. We were able to send out more messaging regarding that homework should not have been there for that holiday or the upcoming holiday. And so you should have seen, or your students should have seen, some adjustments there. But moving forward, I don't anticipate that to be a problem in terms of those assignments. If by mistake a student assigns homework on a holiday, please contact the teacher and say it's a holiday. We're aware of that. I think sometimes with this virtual learning environment, we've just had a little hiccups in our normal operating procedures, and I apologize for that, and I think we've corrected that. Okay, so the next question, and I think it's still on the forefront of the question about math. And let's see, it is, my senior told me his friends were having similar problems in the math in BC calculus, the upper level math course. The question is, would you consider adding more math instruction to Wednesdays? Unfortunately, this is not a local decision. Our schedule is based on what MCPS has provided us in terms of that time for students. I have and do elevate these concerns when parents are saying, we think we need more time for this. In my meetings with central office, I provide that feedback. What I would like to tell you and what we do locally is to make sure that we're also telling Mr. Burnham, our math department RT, and the administrator, Mr. Mamana, so that we're giving them feedback in terms of that math instruction and what else we can do to support our learners. The virtual check-ins, the time after school, those are really important to continue to work with our students in their math courses. We know that math is one of those subjects that that needs a lot of reinforcement for some of our students, and we know that a lot of our students are taking very high levels of math. And so one of the other pieces after this question is that I've asked Mr. Burnham to kind of look into what is happening in pacing so that we can figure out how better to support our students. But I understand the difficulty. I was in upper level math classes and sat through classes every day. And if I didn't have it, I could probably have had 5 more hours. And I don't know, it still would have been an interesting experience for me. So we are really trying to figure out how we can provide the support within the time that we have for our students and make sure that they are grasping the concepts in their math courses. You know, the other piece that's just, again, fluid is there's lots of information and lots of question about when students will come back. And so, and embedded in that too is looking at our virtual model. So I cannot say with certainty that how long this model will continue. I know that we're in this space until January, but we're also looking at when perhaps the county will signal for some sort of in-person. In the meantime, the best thing that we can do is support our learners through the math through the math program, providing extra help and making sure that we are serving their needs as best as possible. I would suggest that if you have some feedback around the calendar, there's plenty of surveys that the county puts out around how that Wednesday time could be used. And I think that that's also a great vehicle for you to have your voice heard at the central office level as well in terms of how the Wednesday is working for in terms of instruction. Okay, those are the 4 questions that were given to me. So I'm now going to go to the chat and let's see. Oh, great question about 9th graders introduced to clubs. Will there be sessions teaching students how important it is for college apps to get involved? Absolutely. So we are excited that on Tuesday, September 29th, we're going to have our club expo. And we have this every year. We're going to do it virtually. We have about, I think, 100 clubs. And during the homeroom period, students will receive instruction and they will receive the list of all of the clubs and activities that we have at Wooten. And during that homeroom period, they can Zoom in, they can meet the club sponsors and leaders, sign up for an extracurricular club or activity. And then from there, they will begin to receive regular communication regarding when that club or activity will be meeting. And so that's going to be like I said, that's on Tuesday during our homeroom. And we really hope that all students participate in that, find an activity or 2 that they're interested in continuing or learning about. And I think it's a great way to stay connected to the school and building those skills of finding 1 or 2 really strong hobbies or interests that they can build upon over the course of their course of their time here. There was a related questions. Are there set times for the clubs? So we're going to do a couple of things. Some of the clubs will meet during 5th period. So we will use some of the homeroom time that we have available to us to have clubs meet during 5th period, but clubs will also meet after school. One of the aims of why we're starting so a little later in September for clubs and activities, we're getting all of that together. That'll all be published on our website. So students will know when clubs are meeting. They will know where the Zoom sites are so that they can Zoom into those meetings, and who to contact should they have any questions or anything else. So our kickoff is on Tuesday with just an introduction to all of the clubs. And then all of the information will be coming in terms of how to get involved and stay involved. And we'll certainly have that on our website. Okay, let's see. There was another question. All right, when the kids are able to go back into this building, will there be some sort of orientation for freshmen? Absolutely. We love having freshman orientation and have them experience the building. So when that is part of our plan for freshmen to come back and to have some time prior to, or somehow we'll figure out a way to bring our freshmen back. That's such an important part to get to know the building, and particularly since we will, depending on how we come back, letting them know all of the safety protocols as well in terms of how they would maneuver the building. So yes, we do have a plan to have students come back, our freshmen come back early and have that opportunity. It's just so important. Is there someone we should email to give feedback on virtual learning pacing of assignments balance after we've spoken to teacher? Absolutely. Locally, please involve the counselor and the administrator so that we can also get involved and see what patterns are happening in our school. If the question is about the actual schedule and perhaps how the Wednesday is being used, that would be something to give feedback to for central office, because again, our schedule is aligned with the schedule from MCPS. I missed the junior parent meeting this week. Will the recording or slides be available? Yes, we're going to post all of the slides to all of our parent meetings today, actually. So please take a look at our website and we will be posting that. We think we'll try to do the recordings as well. We ran into a little bit of an issue. I am loving all the learning I am doing around Zoom and Zoom webinars, but we certainly have all of the slides, and the slides have links embedded. If we can get the recordings up, we'll do that as well, but we certainly have the slides and look for those today. Let's see. Okay, another question. Separate from the Club Expo, are there any adult monitored social times for students during the school day? Our daughter is a 9th grader and very much enjoyed the Media Center online lunch gatherings last spring at Frost. So at this point, we don't have that. We're going to work through our clubs and activities. We're working through our classrooms in order to have students feel connected. I will take back to see if are there other opportunities for us to be able to have some sort of socialization time with students that are adult monitored. The reality is everyone is very stretched thin. And so we're trying our best to capitalize the time in classroom, the virtual check-ins, the focused areas of support for students, and the clubs and activities. At this point, those are the best ways that we can do this. We've had to stay away from lunch, obviously, because we want students to take a break from the screen. We want them to have lunch. We want them to be able to come here to pick up a lunch if they need to, or just have a break time. And so we're trying to really balance out how do we do that. So I will take that back to ILT and to see if there's something else we can layer on as another support, especially around social emotional. And I will also take it back to our counseling department to see if there's some sort of way we can do that as well. But right now, we are in a space that we're trying to make sure that our teaching and learning and having those spaces and students check in through the times on Wednesdays and after schools, that's paramount, as well as our clubs and activities. Okay, let's see. There is a question, mask that teachers place communicate more where they're posting their assignments. Yes, this came up through the parent meetings this week, and it's actually an agenda item on ILT. So we spent a lot of time and was very thoughtful in terms of the MyMCPS classroom page and having that be a similar experience, ensuring that all teachers had one Zoom link. We really were concerned about organization and not having students have to figure out the teacher's thinking around the MyMCPS space. But we are hearing more and more that the assignments are sometimes posted under assignments, sometimes posted under modules. And so I'm meeting with our RTs and we're having this as an ILT discussion so that we can see how we need to communicate school-wide where assignments will be placed moving forward so as not to create confusion. So that is, yet again, a little bit of learning that we're trying to correct in terms of, well, we've learned that there's a concern there and we're trying to correct it. And so hopefully I'll have some more information to share soon about where all of the assignments will be placed, because we know it can be confusing, you know, and that's really been the thought process. Our students have to access 7 classes a day. So as much consistency as we can give, it's really, really important. And we've been working really hard to try to give some consistent messages, but this is one area we are getting more feedback with. Let's see. Have there been any considerations of providing paper student planners that are distributed early? Not every student may benefit from the online agenda. Yes, thank you. We do have plans. So we held off on producing anything paper just because getting it to our families and what we had in that space really didn't, it applied more to brick and mortar, quite frankly. So we do have an online online site where we have our student handbook, and we also have 3 different templates to help organize students. However, we are planning, once we're back in the building, to do a hard copy agenda book. We just didn't know how useful, quite frankly, a hard copy would be in this moment, just because everything is so virtual, and being able to have something that's virtual and manipulative in terms of being able to put in where their Zoom link is or something like that, we thought would be more advantageous to our students in the virtual environment. So if you haven't checked out there were, like I said, there were 3 different templates to help students plan, and it's under our agenda book on our website. How do parents get MyMCPS Classroom to check assignments and grades? It's not possible with Parent View. Okay, so then there's another one about textbooks. I'll get that in a second. So there are some syncing issues with the transfer over to Parent View. The county is aware of this. I've been hearing this quite a bit in terms of not being able to see some of the assignments, and some of the access that parents had in the past is not readily available in Parent View. My understanding is that they're working to correct that so that you're able to see more of the assignments, you are able to see all of the grades. But I can tell you that at this point, there have been some glitches in our transition over to the new system. If there are concerns, I would suggest to hop online with your student and say, let me see where you are with your assignments and your grades for now. But there are some technology glitches that the county is working on to fix. Some of the view access, how much you're able to see, and also the syncing between Parent View and the classroom for parents. And the next part of that question was about textbooks not being distributed. We did distribute textbooks and materials for this year. We distributed all last week, and then again yesterday and Wednesday. However, because we have 2,100 students, multiply that by 7 classes, And it's really, so we really wanted to make sure that what we were distributing was absolutely necessary. So we had the RTs work with all of their teachers to say, what is it that we need to distribute versus what can students have online? So we have distributed materials. This is certainly not as much as we might have distributed in terms of textbooks, but teachers are utilizing online materials and resources if they did not have a textbook distributed in their class. There were some areas, I believe in math, for example, students could opt to use the online pre-calculus book, or if a student wanted to come and pick up a pre-calculus book, we were able to give those out. And so we did give out quite a few materials. I think we had somewhere over 2,000 bags that needed to be distributed, and we're down to about 300. So there were lots of materials distributed last week and this week. If you were unable to get your materials, or if you are questioning whether or not your son or daughter should have gotten materials, if you could please check with your student, they would be able to say their teacher told them that they needed materials, and we'll still have those bags available, and we'll arrange a time for them to come pick those up. And does the teacher know students are gaming at the same time in class? What should parents do to them? So this is a great question. And this is where we're struggling because all of our students are in their individual spaces. I would suggest that it's really important that we, for all of us to review the expectations for, their work environment, and to wander into their spaces and say, how's it going? What are you working on? We've talked a lot about cameras being on, and that, and we say that because we think that's a really important component to being for students to be connected to their classmates and to what's happening in the assignment. And I can tell you from lots of experience, it's really hard to go out and see a sea of names and not see any faces when you're teaching. As a teacher, we love those interactions with our students. And so really defining, what your expectations are for students to be engaged. I think to also, your students, sometimes that phone needs to be away during the virtual learning environment, and making sure that they're not able to have access to it, or maybe that space where they're working is out in the public where folks are, yes, it's a great suggestion. Thank you. They're delivering their phones in the morning. We did that a lot here when we had issues with students and their phones. And so, sometimes, in this environment, really tightening up a little bit on, okay, here are the expectations in terms of your being engaged in your classes. We're starting to also figure it out, right? So, one of the things, and then you can share this with your kids, it might help. So one of the things we're looking at now is that if students sign on and then they turn off their camera, and then long after the class is over, they're still there, lingering. That's our big clue that they've tuned out at some point. And so teachers are starting to follow up, making phone calls and emailing the student and you to say, hey, I noticed that you were in my next class, is everything okay? Are you engaged in the learning? And so, but I really think just knowing your students, saying, okay, we have to make sure that there are some structures, some protocols, and just some agreements around this learning environment. I don't want you gaming. I don't want you on your phone doing other things. I want to see that if you can't turn your camera on one day, or, I want to make sure you're in that chat. I want to make sure in those breakout sessions, they hear your voice. So there are other ways that we are looking to make sure that students are engaged. Let's see. And yes, and I love the suggestion about delivering the phones. I think that's a frequently students are asked to use their phones for something in class. That is a good point. Sometimes we are asking because we have Kahoot, there's sometimes games and things that we're doing to gauge students, check for understanding. So sometimes that can be a little bit of a different, but hey, I'd like for them to say, can I have the phone back? Because I need to do a Kahoot. And then that's how you know that they're working on something that they should be. My son, let's see, said or telling him to turn off his camera. Is that the case? Now, there are some times, I would say this, that we cannot require that students turn their cameras on. There are privacy concerns. We have some students who are pretty vulnerable at times, or body image issues. Lots of reasons why that we cannot mandate that cameras are on for some of our students. And so that's why we're in the space of strongly encouraging, if it's possible. We don't want it to be an undue burden on our students for if there's something going on that that having the camera on would actually cause harm, quite frankly, just because of they'll spend too much time knowing that the camera's on. And so that's what's more important, is that engagement piece. And what we're working on as a school is making sure that we have multiple ways for students to show their engagement, from utilizing the chat, participating in the breakout sessions. And what we're also finding is that students, especially our freshmen, are uncomfortable having their camera on in the large group, but as soon as you put them in a breakout group, their cameras go on. So we're also learning how students are responding to the virtual environment and what they feel comfortable doing. But there are times I use this move one afternoon, for example, I was speaking to students in a journalism class, and they were all asking me questions. And I wanted to make sure I answered, everyone had an opportunity for me to answer their questions. They all had their cameras on, and I said, everyone, if you've asked me a question already, please turn your cameras off so that I can see who's remaining. So sometimes it could be a teaching strategy. Sometimes it could be to make sure that the teachers are checking for some sort of understanding, where they'll ask for the cameras to be turned off, or during independent practice. So hopefully you might have observed that in the full hour of instruction, there may be, a icebreaker of some sort, some large group direct instruction, and then there may come a place in the lesson where the teachers are saying, okay, I want you to go work on this math problem. You can turn your cameras off for that so you can do your work, and then we'll come back and discuss it, or we'll go into breakout rooms. So sometimes if the teacher is asking for the camera to be off, that's just a signal that you're doing independent work. Please go do that. I'm going to check in on you, or I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to get this done. But for the most part, to circle back, if students are able to turn on their cameras in classes, if the teacher is asking for those cameras to be on, we would appreciate if they're able to do that. Is there consideration that a physical education class can be away from the computer? For example, asking students to go outside and document an exercise activity and upload. Oh, that's a great question. I think that there are some considerations of doing drills, of doing having some different experiences for students that is physical in nature. The other piece, though, that gets a little bit more complicated is that there also needs to be in addition to the drills and having some sort of physical activity, because we know how important that is, especially when students are sitting in front of a computer all day. We're also making sure that they're getting the components of what they signed up for. So for example, if a student signed up for net games, then there is some learning around net games that also has to happen. But I want to check, because my last check, the PE teachers as a PLC, they were working towards doing more physical activity and logging it in some way. So that question has me wanting to go back and ask some more questions and how that's being delivered. All right, I hope I got all of the questions. I tried to do in order. Let's see, it is 9:48, so we have a few minutes. So if there are some questions that didn't get in the chat, or I just didn't answer, my apologies, I missed, please feel free to unmute yourselves and ask a question or comment. I'm working on my
Hi,
I had I guess a thought, I guess, about the whole camera issue that I just wanted to share for whatever it's worth.
Sure.
I understand what you just said about teaching. That could be like a teaching practice, etc. I have children on all 3 levels. Yay me. And so I'm navigating all 3 levels. And one of the things that has consistently come up in meetings is the fact that a lot of students are, because there's some idea that you can kind of hide because you're in this virtual learning environment now. You know, you're in this virtual learning environment, so it's not the same as sitting in class. So, you know, maybe you're not as engaged, or maybe you might push the envelope, you know, in terms of behavior or no behavior or conduct or whatever, or just not really participating. And I wonder if there might be some value into not having the kids turn the camera on and off, because that sort of emphasizes that we're in a virtual environment, versus setting the goal of trying to mimic as closely as possible to an in-person situation. You know, if you were in class, you wouldn't be able to like turn yourself off, for example. So it's just something to consider, you know, as a lot of kids may be having issues with, for lack of a better word, taking the virtual environment seriously. So I just put that out there just in my conversations with other parents, that I know that there are privacy concerns, I guess, surrounding, I don't know, capturing images. I'm not really sure exactly what the privacy issue is, but certainly if they were in class, there would be no privacy concerns. So it's just something, you know, as you meet with your teachers, just throw that out there. You know, some parents are saying that their kids are kind of like, well, it's virtual, so, you know, I can be on my phone secretly, or I can do whatever secretly, and nobody's going to know if my camera's off. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot around, you know, this virtual environment that we're trying to figure out. And really, I've explained to teachers, you know, it would be great for students to have their cameras on, but that's not the battle we want to fight. And so our learning around the virtual and community and making sure that teachers have those tools we're really focusing on engagement. That's the most important thing. Cameras being on is one way to show that they're engaging. When I'm having my meetings and all of my teachers have my colleagues have their cameras on, I can see the head nods, I can see them, you know, all of those nonverbal cues to know that they're with us and that everyone's on the same page. So that's what's missing. But as a school, our learning, our professional development has all been about the virtual environment. We're using what's called a community of inquiry model. We're looking at the social presence that we want to create in the virtual environment, and how do we create that social presence as teachers, but also how do we create that social presence for students? How do we engage them in anything from icebreakers and all of the ways that social presence can be viewed there. We're also looking at the teaching presence. How do we organize ourselves in a virtual environment so that it's smooth and it's seamless? And the cognitive presence. How are we making sure that students are having opportunities to learn and engage in this environment? And so what I want you to hear from me is that what's most important for all of us is that students are engaging in the subject matter. Students are engaging with their teachers, and it's really, really important. And a component of that, of course, is, you know, that camera at different places. And we try to stress for sure that this is, you know, the signal really was that now we have grades, and, you know, in high school, grades mean a lot because they mean graduation. And so when we think about all of the ways in which we can learn from this environment and plan for this environment, we think cameras on, off, fine. We fall on different parts of that debate. But what's really important is that we stress the engagement. We stress that just like school, we need students to pay attention. We need students to engage to the best of their ability. We know that learning is a social endeavor. So asking questions, being able to provide feedback and say, I really don't understand this, or I thought this. All of those are the ways in which students learn and learn material. And so we really want students to be engaged all the way around.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have one other quick question, and that is about the virtual check-in on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the question is, and I don't know because I'm not sitting in the room, so maybe the teachers are voicing this, but maybe to have the teachers, provide some, I don't know, checklist, or not sure what word to use. I haven't had enough coffee yet, but I guess the word is a checklist or something that would, it's easy for a student to be like, I don't need any help. I don't need to check in. I don't need this. But maybe, something that would prompt a student to say, okay, now I'm at a point where maybe I should check in, because there's kind of like this stigma of like checking in. Like, if I check in, does that mean that, I need the help, or something is wrong or whatever. So just kind of making it so that the virtual check-in is a welcoming and open environment, and not necessarily because, you're not getting it or whatever, but just as an opportunity to communicate.
I'd like to second that too. My child, it's very hard for her to ask a question, even when she doesn't understand, and to verbalize it. But I think she would very much benefit from being able to listen to other students asking questions. But it's not work for me to push her in, because it's not really a moderated session intended for everybody in there to participate and learn in a welcoming environment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So so in the brick and mortar, we also have challenges around, students. And I think sometimes it can be a maturity level too, in terms of, from freshmen and feeling a little bit less secure about coming and talking to their teacher. So we do see this quite a bit of having students initiate the check-in and feeling comfortable in that. So we do send messages to students around, just come on in, check in with us, bring a friend, so that they'll start realizing that we want our students to be in this space. But we also have the focused student support, and that is where the teacher is saying, I really need to see you. And so between the virtual check-ins, where the student is, I would say, more of the driver, right? They are indicating that they want to come and get that. And then the focused student support, where the teacher is initiating the appointment or setting up a time to meet with them. I think the goal is to have it for both, for all different learners who really are trying to understand how to navigate that space outside the structured environment to interact with their teachers. And so I'll definitely send more messages to staff about making that more welcoming environment just to come in. I hope you reinforce it at home. We really do want our students to be in those spaces, and we really do want students to show up. That is truly, the culture of Wooten, that we have our tutoring supports during lunch and after school and before school. They're packed a lot of times because, students feel comfortable doing that. I think it is more of a challenge because of this virtual environment, and they're not seeing their friends go to see the teacher all together. And so that is a challenge. So I'll definitely reinforce that message with our teachers to make sure that they're inviting, encouraging, cajoling students to come in. So, all right, I'm going to be mindful of our time. And I thank you for all of your comments. Thank you for your really great questions. I really love this time because I get to hear where we're, doing some good things and where there's some areas to improve. And we especially, need that as we're doing this virtual check-in. So we'll do this again next month, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you. I hope you have a really, really good weekend and a great day.
Thank you, Ms. Bolden.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.